This episode is brought to you by Ridge Wallet. Hey Wisecrack, Michael here to remind you that
there's no war in Ba Sing Se.
Of course, there is very much a war going on, and that's what we're here to talk about. Avatar might look like just another cheerful kids cartoon about folks throwing magic at each other, but it actually might be the best exploration of war we've ever seen in children's television. It may not be the only kids show to depict armies and chosen ones defeating evil lords, but Avatar goes above and beyond to show an unexpected side of armed conflict. So what exactly is it? Let's find out in this Wisecrack edition on Avatar: The Last Airbender. And of course, spoilers ahead. But before we dive into the 100-Year War, I want to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, Ridge. Ridge creates quality products that redefine the everyday essentials. Their wallets, backpacks, phone cases, and chargers are all crafted with a minimalist design that doesn't sacrifice function. Their flagship product, the Ridge Wallet, is a prime example. It is light, sleek, and durable. It doesn't fold awkwardly or bulge in your pocket, but there is still enough room to fit all your cards and cash. The Ridge Wallet holds up to 12 cards and has a cash clip. It comes in over 30 different styles and is made out of carbon fiber, aluminum, and burnt titanium. The wallet is so durable that it even protects against digital pickpockets with its RFID blocking technology. The Ridge is so confident that you'll like it that you can test drive it for 45 days, and if you don't love it, you can send it back and get a full refund. So get 10% off your Ridge Wallet today by going to ridge.com/wisecrack. That's ridge.com/wisecrack and use the promo code Wisecrack. They offer free worldwide shipping and returns, so check it out. Now, back to the show. Avatar takes place in a world divided into 4 elemental nations. The Avatar is tasked with keeping them in harmony by learning to manipulate all 4 elements and acting as a global peacekeeper. Things start to go wrong when the Fire Nation begins its campaign for world domination while the current Avatar is still just a 12-year-old kid named Aang. Terrified by his responsibility, Aang flees in the middle of a storm and ends up plunging into the ocean where he lies frozen in ice for the next 100 years. When he wakes up, the world around him has been ravaged by a century of war. From the beginning, the show refuses to shy away from the effects of such a widespread, drawn-out conflict. We meet siblings Katara and Sokka, who have lost their mother to the war and are tasked with providing for their village while their father is away fighting. We also quickly find out that Aang's entire home and people have been destroyed. Rough stuff. And here, from the very beginning, we get a sense of what Avatar is really about: the human cost of war. Once our trio embark on Aang's quest to master the elements, they feel the effects of the war everywhere they go. Once peaceful villages have become police states thanks to the occupying forces, while the great city of Ba Sing Se has instituted mind control methods to maintain a totalitarian order. There's even an episode where villagers get poisoned by a nearby arms factory and another featuring imprisoned political dissidents. Everywhere our crew goes, they meet people who have lost partners, friends, and family. We also get some realities of war dressed up as childish euphemism. In the very first episode, Katara warns Aang not to go into an abandoned Fire Nation ship just in case it's booby-trapped.
Aang, stop! We're not allowed to go near it. The ship could be booby-trapped.
This is a kid-friendly way to present what is a reality for many children who grow up in current or former war zones. Watch out where you play. There might be some unexploded bombs or hidden landmines strewn around. And as they begin their travels, they find that almost everyone else has had their sense of home affected by the war in some way. For many people, this means the loss of that home altogether. One episode sees Aang and the gang guiding a group through a dangerous route inhabited by a deadly giant snake. A fantastical take on the plight of real-world refugees who traverse all kinds of dangers in the hope of arriving somewhere safe. Likewise, we also meet a group of exiled Earth Kingdom civilians living in the remains of an abandoned air temple. As the last living member of the Air Nation, Aang is initially annoyed by how much the newcomers have changed his homeland.
Do you know what you did? You just destroyed something sacred for a stupid bathhouse!
Well, people around here are starting to stink.
Fleeing war, these refugees have found safe haven, but are accused by Aang of perverting it. Avatar could easily have ignored this aspect of warfare, because in real life, we often do. We may talk about the refugee crisis as it relates to a specific conflict like the war in Syria, but we rarely engage with how ubiquitous a part of war it really is. Almost every major conflict in recent history has created a huge number of refugees. The American Civil War saw hundreds of thousands of Southerners fleeing their homes, while while the Russian Revolution, India-Pakistan partition, Vietnam, and Korean Wars all forced millions to relocate. A recent study from Brown University suggests that the war on terror launched in the wake of 9/11 has displaced some 37 million people to date. Basically, anywhere you have a serious military conflict, you have a serious refugee problem. As the only remaining air nomad, Aang himself is also a refugee. Realizing that everyone he grew up with has been brutally murdered, Aang is forced into the Avatar state, disappearing from himself and morphing into a swirling vortex of uncontrollable pain and fury. It's a powerful visual depiction of the depth of suffering caused by seeing your home reduced to bones and ruins. The damage goes far beyond the loss of the people he loved. The monks were supposed to guide him in the ways of the Avatar, helping him to fully realize his own identity by connecting him to his past. All of our identities are rooted to some degree in where we come from, the traditions and customs we are raised in, lending us the sense that we are the continuation of something. When these roots are ripped out, we can feel existentially lost.
But you were right. And if firebenders found this temple, that means they found the other ones too. I really am the last airbender.
Aang experiences this in an especially literal way because he is the reincarnation of previous avatars, spiritually tied to his past selves. To become the most powerful, most fully realized version of himself, this connection to the past must be nurtured and strengthened, but without the monks there to teach him how, Aang faces a much more arduous journey. Others suffer a similar pain. One episode depicts a town in which earthbending has been outlawed, leaving young earthbenders like Haru cut off from their cultural heritage in a way which shatters their sense of who they are.
Problem is, the only way I can feel close to my father now is when I practice my bending.
While it might seem like a heavy term to invoke here, this is basically a portrayal of cultural genocide, wherein the invading forces aim to eradicate an entire culture by destroying its artifacts and banning its practices. After China annexed Tibet in 1950, it demanded the Tibetan people assimilate to Chinese culture in the name of unity. Even the future Dalai Lama, Tibetan Buddhism's holy leader who is reincarnated and discovered as a child, must be approved by the Chinese government. In the United States and Canada, Native American culture was suppressed for generations. Boarding schools and other policies forced Native people to abandon their names, languages, rituals, and beliefs. More recently, ISIL has been known to destroy religious heritage sites and perform forced conversions wherever they can. In each case, the goal is to erase the victim's entire cultural identity. Even before his home was destroyed, the war had a profound impact on Aang's upbringing. While the Avatar is not usually informed of their calling until they turn 16, Aang was initiated 4 years early because of the looming specter of conflict. The Fire Nation not only steals Aang's home, history, and adoptive family, but a large part of his childhood as well. War forces children to grow up far too fast, speeding them through what should be the carefree portion of their lives to deal with the harshest of realities. In the early episodes, we see Aang still desperately trying to deny this. He knows he has a job to do and cares deeply about the world, but he also really just wants to be a regular 12-year-old kid and go frighten some fish.
That's why we're here. Elephant Koi. And I'm gonna ride him.
With his dad off fighting in the war, teenage Sokka even tries to take on the adult responsibilities of defending his tribe from invaders and attempting to assemble an army of toddlers.
The Fire Nation could be on our shores any moment now.
But I gotta.
And no potty breaks.
While Sokka's gang of waist-high warriors is mostly played for laughs, it sheds light on one of the darkest realities of warfare: child soldiers. In the Second World War, Jewish children across Europe took up arms as part of the Jewish resistance, fighting for the existence of their people. Of course, on the other side of that war, Japan and Germany both had child soldiers fighting for them. After showing how the Water Tribe kids are drawn into defending their home, Avatar examines how the children of their invaders are pulled into it as well.
You're just a child.
Well, you're just a teenager.
In one episode, Aang is accidentally enrolled in a Fire Nation school. He watches as his classmates are fed propaganda to convince them that the Fire Nation is on the right side of history.
Question 1. What year did Firelord Sozin battle the Air Nation army?
The real-world parallels aren't hard to find. During the Second World War, elementary schools in Japan were made to teach children according to the imperial way, framing Japan as a holy land that students had a divine destiny to protect. And Avatar doesn't shy away from the psychological scars that come with being a child soldier, most obviously in its depiction of Jet and his merry band of outlaws. Having seen the Fire Nation wipe out their homes, these kids have learned to meet violence with violence and formed a formidable rebel squadron. At first, Jet and his crew seem like swashbuckling freedom fighters. Their new way of life provides them with a heroic sense of purpose and adventure, offering them a measure of retribution which nothing else will. While we understand how they have become so radicalized, the corrosive effect this has upon their humanity quickly becomes apparent.
I can't let you warn Katara and Aang. Take him for a walk. A long walk.
They are willing to destroy an entire village full of innocents just to strike a blow against the Fire Nation, cheering it as a victory for freedom. The war has made them as ruthless as the enemy they despise. The Fire Nation might play the role of Avatar's evil empire, but the show takes pains to highlight the fact that things are mostly not so binary. Anyone that has been indoctrinated since birth or radicalized by revenge has to be considered a victim of the war as well, even if they grew up to willingly participate in it. War creates generations of kids like Jet and Zuko, with their grudges so deeply ingrained that they will never stop fighting. But Avatar's exploration of this goes far beyond the simple, revenge is bad, you have to forgive people, message that you might expect of a family-friendly cartoon. It emphasizes how difficult forgiveness is to achieve in a world so scarred by war. Take the episode in which Katara meets Hama, an old woman who has developed by far the creepiest technique in the Avatar universe, bloodbending. While the cackling old lady with the freaky power seems like pure horror movie stuff, we find out that she originally created the technique while imprisoned by Fire Nation soldiers along with the rest of her village. Bloodbending allowed her to escape while everyone else perished. It's hard to condemn someone for doing whatever it takes to survive in such impossible circumstances. Things become more complicated again when we discover that Hama has continued using her powers to take revenge upon other Fire Nation citizens.
It's you. You're the one who's making people disappear during the full moons.
The final twist in the tale comes when Katara is forced to use bloodbending to escape Hama, putting her in the exact same position the old woman was in all those years ago, crossing a moral boundary in order to survive. The episode is a masterclass in playing with the audience's sympathies as it draws them into ever murkier moral waters. It asks the question of when the victim becomes a victimizer in their own right.
The choice is not yours. The power exists. And it's your duty to use the gifts you've been given to win this war. Katara, they tried to wipe us out, our entire culture. Your mother.
These ideas are followed up a few episodes later when Zuko offers to help Katara track down the soldier that killed her mother. Having spent her entire life reliving her loss, Katara imagines the soldier as a force of pure evil. When she finally meets the man himself, she is shocked to discover how pathetic he really is. A brow-beaten old coward, living a squalid, unhappy life alongside his bad-tempered mother. Katara can't bring herself to kill someone so wretched, and so is denied the emotional closure of taking revenge. Again, the episode ends on an ambiguous note, where choosing to rise above the urge for vengeance can feel like letting evil go unpunished.
You did the right thing. Forgiveness is the first step you have to take to begin healing.
But I didn't forgive him. I'll never forgive him.
One of the most appalling things about any given historical atrocity is usually how many ordinary people facilitated it. Joshua Oppenheimer's documentary, The Act of Killing, made this unsettlingly clear by providing an up-close look at members of the Indonesian death squads who brutally murdered almost 1 million people in the 60s. Even as they reminisced openly about their awful crimes, they never came across as anything other than regular, fairly unimpressive guys. In some ways, it would be more comforting if we could believe all evil deeds are done by horrifically evil people. But as Katara also finds out, most of the foot soldiers are depressingly regular, slipping back into regular lives once the shooting stops. It's what philosopher Hannah Arendt would call the banality of evil. Unlike these other characters, what really marks Aang as our hero is that he remains resistant to violence all throughout the show. Even after all the war has taken from him, he is determined to find a way back towards peace.
I took away your firebending. You can't use it to hurt or threaten anyone else ever again.
When backed into a corner, he will fight to protect those he cares about, such as when he transforms into the Avatar state to defend the Northern Water Tribe. However, afterwards we find him clearly traumatized by the events. Everyone around him considers him a hero, but Aang is horrified by the destructive power he unleashed, tearing apart an entire fleet by himself. While Aang is clearly special in his commitment to nonviolence, the show mostly avoids labeling good guys and bad guys. Rather, it depicts a war-ravaged world full of complex people struggling with trauma that is hard to overcome. So what do you think? Is Avatar's depiction of war uniquely profound, or does Harry Potter do it better? Should we all be watching Gundam Wing instead? Let us know in the comments. Big thanks to our patrons for your support. Be sure to bend that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching. Later.